300 million years ago, Earth was a kingdom ruled by giant insects. Over time, they went extinct, allowing dinosaurs to dominate the planet. Today we'll explore what would happen if those giant insects had never gone extinct. But before we dive into that hypothetical scenario, let's take a journey back in time to understand their origins and why they became so massive. The Carboniferous period. The Carboniferous period, often referred to as the Age of Oxygen, spanned from 400 million years ago to 290 million years ago. During this period, Earth's atmosphere was rich in oxygen, and the climate was warm and humid, creating ideal conditions for the growth of vast forests and swamps. These conditions also played a crucial role in the development of giant insects. Giant insects of the Carboniferous. One of the most formidable insects of this era was the griffinfly. These dragonfly-like predators had wingspans reaching up to 70 centimeters, or 28 inches, and body lengths of 45 centimeters, or 17 inches. With large, hawk-like eyes and spiny legs designed for catching prey, they dominated the skies, feasting on smaller insects. Another impressive insect was the Mazothyros. This creature measured 55 centimeters, or 22 inches, in length and had 6 wings, 2 pairs of regular wings and an additional pair of winglets. Its most terrifying feature was a beak-like mouth equipped with a sucking pump, allowing it to pierce plant tissues and drink their juices. Imagine encountering one of these today. On the forest floor, the giant millipede Arthropleura armata, which could grow up to 2.5 meters or 8 feet in length, roamed freely. Fortunately, this giant was a herbivore, feasting on fruits, leaves, and seeds. Meanwhile, massive scorpions, as large as tennis rackets, lurked in the shadows, wielding stingers you definitely wouldn't want to encounter. Why did these insects grow so big? The key to their enormous size lies in the Earth's climate and atmospheric conditions during the Carboniferous period. Around 350 million years ago, the warm weather encouraged plants to grow, leading to high oxygen levels in the atmosphere, about 20%, similar to today's levels. As forests and swamps expanded over the next 50 million years, oxygen levels skyrocketed to 35%. Insect respiration and growth are quite fascinating. Unlike mammals, insects don't have lungs. Instead, they have spiracles, openings on their bodies that lead to a network of tubes called trachea. Air enters through the spiracles and travels through the trachea to deliver oxygen directly to their cells. With 35% oxygen in the air, insects could take in more oxygen, allowing them to grow much larger. However, 150 million years ago, despite rising oxygen levels, insect size began to decrease. The reason? Birds, flying dinosaurs, arrived on the scene. These birds feasted on insects, and the larger the insect, the more likely it was to be eaten. To survive, insects evolved to become smaller and more agile, leading to the extinction of their giant predecessors. Could giant insects have survived if oxygen levels returned to 35%? Well, they could potentially reappear, but they would still face predation from birds. To avoid extinction, these insects would need new survival strategies. Let's explore some possibilities.
The weta strategy. One of the largest insects today is the weta, which measures 10 centimeters, or about 4 inches in length, and has existed since before the dinosaurs. It survived by living on an island, New Zealand, without predators. However, this strategy eventually failed as predators arrived, forcing wetapunga, the largest species of weta, to retreat to smaller islands or be kept in protected environments like zoos. The cicada strategy. Another option is a stealth reproduction strategy, like that of cicadas. After mating, female cicadas lay nearly 400 eggs. These eggs hatch in 6 to 8 weeks, and the young nymphs burrow underground for up to 17 years, avoiding predators. While effective, this strategy means spending most of their lives underground, which isn't ideal for a species meant to dominate the ecosystem. A more proactive strategy is chemical warfare, used by the lubber grasshopper. Lubbers absorb poisons from plants and create a toxic broth. When threatened, they eject this poisonous broth, creating a chemical cloud. If this fails, they have an internal toxin that makes predators vomit and avoid them in the future. This dual defense mechanism allows them to deter predators effectively.
What if giant insects still existed today? If we assume a world with 35% oxygen and giant insects equipped with chemical defenses, these insects could potentially fend off birds and other predators. But what if the Chicxulub asteroid, which wiped out the dinosaurs, hadn't hit? The disappearance of the biggest predators would have been beneficial for giant insects, providing them with ample decaying material to consume. However, this scenario raises questions about the impact on mammals and human evolution. Human adaptation to high oxygen levels. If our atmosphere suddenly contained 35% oxygen, it would be toxic to us, causing symptoms like coughing, difficulty breathing, seizures, and even death. However, if apes and humans had evolved in such an environment, our bodies would have adapted to handle the high oxygen levels. We'd likely be super runners and swimmers, breaking today's athletic records. Our brains, which use 20% of the oxygen we breathe, would grow even larger and faster, enhancing our cognitive abilities. Modern-day implications. Imagine looking out your window and seeing giant griffin flies and six-winged insects buzzing around. Would they attack humans? It's possible, especially during certain periods of their evolution. However, humans are resourceful and would develop weapons to defend against these giant insects. Sharp rocks in the Stone Age and special bug sprays or zappers today. Just as birds evolved to avoid giant insects, these insects would eventually learn to steer clear of humans. Besides giant bugs flying outside, we might also encounter giant cockroaches and spiders. If these insects developed chemical defenses, they could remain large. Without these defenses, they'd likely revert to being small and nimble. Human evolution and size. If bugs were giant, would humans evolve to be bigger too? Possibly. There is evidence to suggest a correlation between rising oxygen levels and the size of organisms. However, increased size would only occur if it provided a significant evolutionary advantage. Increased fire risk. Another danger would be the increased risk of fires. With higher oxygen levels, everything would be highly combustible. A small spark could start a blaze, and giant insects could cause bigger explosions, similar to the bombardier beetle's defensive mechanisms. In a 35% oxygen atmosphere, forests would burn frequently, forcing plants to evolve fire resistance or rapid regrowth strategies. Increased noise levels. The world would also be much louder. A mass of cicadas today can be as loud as a lawnmower, around 100 decibels. Giant cicadas could produce even more deafening sounds, significantly impacting the environment and potentially leading to widespread hearing loss in animals and humans. Insects as a food source. Humans are known for their diverse diets, so it's likely that giant insects would become a valuable protein source. Meatless Monday might become Giant Insect Friday, with griffin flies and other large insects becoming culinary delicacies. In regions like Australia, they might even be cooked on the barbecue. With advanced technology and culinary techniques, humans would find ways to incorporate these giant insects into their diets. In conclusion, a world where giant insects never went extinct would be drastically different from our own. With higher oxygen levels and chemical defenses, these insects could fend off predators and dominate the ecosystem. Humans would adapt to this environment, developing new technologies and survival strategies to coexist with these giant creatures. But what if it wasn't just giant insects? What if the dinosaurs never went extinct either? That's a story for another video.